stories of elder neglect are as heartbreaking as this one. An 85-year-old woman lost her life after being left outside in freezing weather on New Year's Day. Despite having 4 adult sons, none of them was willing to take responsibility for her care. Throughout the day and night, the elderly mother desperately sought shelter and help, yet every door remained closed. Even after her death, the 4 brothers argued over who should handle her funeral arrangements. Their actions eventually led to criminal punishment. On January 2, 2014, residents of a small mountain village in Chongqing were celebrating the holiday season when they noticed an elderly woman sitting motionless beneath a tree near the village road. The woman, known locally as Xie Changjing, had already passed away. The villagers immediately contacted her 4 sons. Instead of showing concern, each son insisted that caring for their mother was someone else's responsibility. The village committee then informed her 3 daughters. Because of local traditions, the married daughters could not directly take charge of funeral matters at that stage, so only one son-in-law arrived to pay respects. The sons, however, remained unwilling to act. Outraged by what they witnessed, local residents contacted the authorities. Police soon discovered that 2 of the woman's sons lived very close to the place where she died. When questioned, neither man accepted responsibility. One claimed he knew nothing about the situation. Another explained that the brothers had arranged a rotating schedule for caring for their mother and that she should have been staying with the eldest brother at that time. The eldest son offered a different version of events. He argued that although it was technically his turn to care for their mother, the youngest brother had never properly transferred her to his household. The youngest son strongly disagreed and stated that he had brought their mother to the eldest brother's residence the previous day. As investigators listened to the conflicting stories, it became clear that every brother was blaming someone else. A preliminary examination revealed no obvious signs of violent assault, although blood was visible around the woman's nose and mouth. Because the circumstances appeared suspicious, investigators ordered a more detailed examination and continued interviewing family members and witnesses. As the investigation progressed, a clearer picture emerged. January 1 had been the agreed date for transferring responsibility for the elderly mother from one son to another. Early that morning, the youngest son's wife packed up the old woman's bedding and gave her a simple breakfast consisting of porridge and a steamed bun. No one realized that it would be the final meal of her life. The bedding was taken to the eldest son's property first. Later, the youngest son escorted his mother there. However, the eldest son had already locked his house and gone out. According to witnesses, he had previously indicated that he would be attending a family gathering and did not want any inconvenience that day. Instead of making alternative arrangements, the youngest son left his elderly mother near a small storage shed beside the property and departed. Although there was space available inside the house, the eldest son had previously refused to let his mother stay there, claiming it would be difficult for her to manage the locks and doors. The weather was bitterly cold. After waiting for hours and realizing nobody was coming back, the elderly woman slowly began walking away with the help of her cane. Eventually she made her way toward the youngest son's home once again. Unfortunately, he refused to take her in, saying preparations were underway for an important family celebration. Turned away yet again, she continued wandering through the village. Later that afternoon, a villager recalled seeing her walking slowly along the road while crying. Nearby were the homes of her second and third sons. By that point she had already spent most of the day outdoors without proper care, warmth, or support. Around 4 p.m., she stopped at the home of a local resident named Huang Guojun. Not knowing the full situation, he offered her a small snack and spoke with her briefly. That simple act of kindness would prove to be one of the last moments of comfort she experienced. As night fell, several nearby residents reported hearing the elderly woman calling for help. One neighbor later recalled hearing her repeatedly call out the nickname of her second son. The second son later admitted that he heard his mother's voice but chose not to respond. He believed the matter was part of a dispute between his brothers and did not want to become involved. The third son reportedly heard her cries as well but similarly failed to act. Investigators later concluded that the elderly woman likely fell while wandering near her son's homes during the night. Evidence suggested that she attempted to pull herself up using a bamboo pole nearby. The blood found around her nose and mouth was consistent with a fall. Fighting to survive, she continued calling out for help. Temperatures that night dropped close to freezing. After spending the entire day outdoors, the elderly woman was forced to endure the cold darkness completely alone. The next morning, the second son stepped outside, not to check on his mother, but to take his grandson to school. At some point he noticed her lying on the ground. By the time he returned later, she had already died. News of the tragedy spread quickly throughout the village. Residents were deeply angered and jointly appealed to the authorities, demanding justice for the elderly woman. Because public concern was so intense, court proceedings were eventually held in the village itself so local residents could observe the case. During the hearing, the judge openly criticized the brothers, questioning how they could ignore their elderly mother's suffering while remaining comfortably inside their homes. The proceedings drew large crowds, and many villagers expressed disbelief and anger at what had happened. In their view, the brothers had failed in the most basic duty a child owes a parent. Even after the verdict was delivered, the four men continued to argue that they were not solely responsible. Each claimed to have fulfilled his obligations and pointed the finger at the others. The court ultimately determined that all four sons had abandoned their elderly mother and held them legally accountable for their actions. The case remains a painful reminder that neglect can be just as devastating as direct harm. For many people, the story stands as a warning about the importance of caring for aging parents before it is too late.